Hey YouTube, so today I will be decorating my stool that is in my somewhat YouTube studio area. If you haven't seen my apartment tour, check that out. I'll give you a quick far away glimpse of the vision here. Honestly, you're seeing 90% of my apartment right now. But I am on my third year living here now, and I've never used the dining room, so I turned it into my creative space and dog pen area. But I really don't like how bland that stool is. I wanted to do something fun with it, so we are covering it with flowers. Here is the supplies I will be using: needle and thread. Here is some fabric. That's sort of for the seat I'm trying to make. Flowers from Dollar Tree. They're left over from a previous project. Hot glue that is safe on wood. Got some tape, markers, pencils, ribbon. A hot glue gun, of course. I have these foam trays to set the hot glue gun on, and this cotton. The goal is to use that for a seat cover of the stool, but we'll get to that later on. These are the flowers all laid out. I have just a random mixture because I made a wine glass jug piggy bank and this is left over. I would say get about roughly $15 worth of bundles from Dollar Tree. These are the same flowers I used here. I did make this flower wall, so make sure you check out that tutorial. So I have this method where I take the back stem off of the flower and undo each layer of the fake flower. And as you can see, it gives me with all these individual petals. So I may have up to, I think, 6 here compared to the regular flower. If I were to glue it on the stool alone, that's just 1. So this method is my signature way of decorating anything with flowers, and it really maximizes how many flowers you can use, and saves your money because you're getting like essentially 6-in-1 flowers. So I went and got a popsicle stick because the glue is very hot, but I'm doing a small dime size dab of hot glue on the stool directly, and then I am pressing that flower petal against it just to flatten it a bit. You'll notice that I'm not completely gluing the flower down flat. I'm leaving the side flower petals sort of frilly and free. We'll get back to that later, but I'm making sure to rotate the stool as I decorate because I have different versions of flowers. I have a lot of white. I don't have that many pink, and I don't want to go to the store. So I'm just spacing out that flower. And I always use one flower at a time, completely use it, rotate it as I go so that I can disperse the pinks, the whites, the yellows, and not having it crowded in one space. Here you see I layered up this flower. That's just another method you can do. I usually don't do this till the end, but I want to show you your different options. So you take the petal apart fully and detach all maybe 3, 4, 5 layers, and you can pick up to 2 or 3 to layer on top of each other so it isn't as flat. Again, that's usually what I do later on, but just wanted to show you what your options are. Luckily, I have these tiny, very small petals that I'm using for the middle bars of the stool. I could have used larger regular flowers, but I kind of wanted to see that different contrast of large versus small, considering, you know, these are the small bars, so didn't want them to be ginormously fluffed up and covered. And I realized after a while that I'm only covering the outside of the perimeter, I guess, of the stool, like only the side that's facing me. And I realized I have to cover the inside, and I have to cover all 4 aspects of each pole for the stool. So I'm like, wow, I have to use a lot of flowers. And here you see I am gluing the petals down from one side to the other corners. Like I'm flattening it around the corners to save me some flower and space. So here you'll see again, I'm covering it flat there. And I'm using ones that are already glued, taking those petals and wrapping it around the stool. And this is just saving me a little bit of flower petals for later, so that I don't have to use a new one on every single side when I have all those extra petals free flowing that I can flatten to cover that wooden space. And I think the best way to decorate is this sporadic sort of rotation and placing high and low and mid, back, front, because it's very easy to cover one side completely and then have like nothing left for the other side. So this way of dispersing the flowers ensures that you have an even spread and you don't run out of flowers. And if you do, it's an organized, unified running out of flowers. So this did take me total about 3 to 4 hours. Of course, I didn't want to sit here and record that. I couldn't even save that video, it'd be too long. So I did have to fast forward. I turned off my camera for a while, and here is the product after about another hour and a half of gluing down flowers. You can still see wooded areas. It's not fully compact and covered with flowers, but I'm just doing as I have been doing from the beginning, layering flowers, filling in gaps. If I see a petal that can be glued down flat to cover up wood, I do glue that down, as you see here. And I may put another flower on top of that just to make it pop a bit more. And with the bars between the stool that you rest your feet on or stand on or whatever, make sure to cover underneath it. It's circular compared to the long pillars that are like rectangle, square, boxy, for lack of better words. So make sure you cover the full circular pole that I'm covering with little flowers. It was very difficult to get all the angles, but it's necessary because you can definitely tell when there's a lot of wood showing in one area versus another. So the key takeaways is use the flowers that are already there to cover your surface area. Before putting a new flower, glue down the petals of another. But you don't want them all glued flat and it'd be super boring and stiff. As you can see, the wind is blowing a little bit. I think I have my air conditioning on and the flowers are moving. So I really like that they're not so flat. And this is sort of the cleanup stage where I go through and fill in the tiny gaps with more flowers, and I layer up flowers. And maybe I have a bunch of white flowers at the base. I throw on some pink ones or some yellow ones just to give that variety to the area. And I have a lot of hot glue web, sort of what I call it. I make sure to take some time and clean up my stool so I don't have that drag of hot glue web all over my flowers. And you see I'm reaching behind and through the different sides of the stool, turning it to see what spaces are a little bare. And you really have to rotate this 360 to get all the areas covered. And here we are so far. I really love the colors together. Super summery and it matches the flowers. So now I am trying to work on the top cushion part. I am in no way at all a designer, okay? So I had a vision for this pillow and it would have worked if I didn't try to do this the same day. But I was tired. I'm on like hour 3 and I just want to get this over with. So I outline the pink fabric and I just get the circumference. And then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do the same for this like cotton or whatever foam. And I'm very lazily, I know it's a mess and I'm like, this is not gonna be cute, but oh well. Cut out the circle, and my goal is to kind of hot glue the foam down on the stool directly and then cover it with the fabric and just hot glue and tuck the fabric underneath the bottom of the stool. That's my lazy idea. The real idea, I was supposed to make a sort of fluffy pillow ball separate, sew it up with the sewing tools I got. As you see, I didn't even bring them out this time. And then I was supposed to attach ribbon to the round pillow and tie it underneath the stool, if that makes sense. The stool seat. So it was going to be sort of a movable pillow in a way that was going to be like round and fluffy like that. But I just didn't feel like doing that. It's a mess. Look at this. What am I doing? I just want to get this covered. I know I can't cover it with flowers because that would not be comfortable, and sometimes I set things on top of my stool. So overall, I was like, I need a break from that. Let me just cover the rim, at least, of this stool. I had a bunch of tiny flowers left, so while I kind of brainstorm on how to cover the very top seat, I am just covering the rim border of this seat. And I'm placing the flowers not very linear, like straight horizontal across. I'm doing some high on the rim, some low, some spaced out, and I go back and fill just to make sure I have enough. And just a very tiny dab of glue will do. And I am giving them a nice firm push. You can't really tell, but make sure you put some pressure on it. I didn't use the popsicle stick because I was also over that. And this is again another cleanup stage, going through and filling in tiny gaps. And I'm cleaning off the hot glue webs here. So back to this seat top. I really love the perimeter of the stool. It turned out so nicely. So my backup plan is maybe I should only hot glue the fabric on and sort of cut out the excess so I have a solid pink top, because I really love how bright this pink was against the light pink stool. It really brought out that hot pink accent of the petals. So I am squiggling on some hot glue, and the idea is to just press it on. Looking back, I should have used a sort of glue that I could paint on and just like cover the surface with flat and then press on the fabric, because I really didn't like the squiggles of the hot glue, how you could see I don't know how to describe it, the line of the hot glue through the fabric. It wasn't flat. It's like I could feel it. I could rub my fingers over it and it was bumpy. So I didn't like that. It looked really tacky. But I'm like, let me try a little more. Let me see if it looks tacky on the whole surface. And it still was not looking good, so I just ripped that off. And at this point, this is my last option of what I have in my house, some acrylic paint. I barely have any white or pink or red, but I'm just going to see how far this goes. I dab on some light pink first. I'm using a sponge sort of paintbrush. Then I mix some red and white and just kind of slap that on there. And I didn't know how this would turn out because it was looking very red, and I don't like red, so I was just seeing where it went. Doing that. So then I start to blot the paint and try to blend in that color as best as I could to make it pink. And it wasn't looking too bad. So the last resort actually was pretty decent. So now that's good enough in my opinion. I then go through and cover the very corners where the paint meets the flower. Cover that with a bit more flowers that I have left, and I'm also trying to also cover those flowers that I painted accidentally, just so it doesn't look tacky and sloppy. I'm covering that painted flowers with new fresh flowers. Now I would like to find something to cover the seat with, some sort of clear coating, because it is acrylic paint that's good on wood, but considering I would be sitting on this stool or putting things on top of it, I don't want it to scrape off and rub off on like my clothes or what have you. So I am trying to find something that I can clear coat this top with so that it seals in the paint and makes it sort of glossy. Maybe I need to find a wood glosser. I don't know. I don't really know what to use at all. So if you have any ideas, let me know below. And once I find something, I will comment or, do a little mini video on covering the seat. Then of course I clean up the hot glue web like always. And here is the final look. I really loved it. It took like 4 hours, but it was worth it. It blends in really nicely with my flower wall. Now I probably need to get a better rug because I'm really not feeling that now that the stool is decorated. But really love the stool. This $7 Walmart stool turned into a super fancy looking decoration piece. And I tried to cover every inch of this as I could. There are some places I could glue down a few more petals. Here's my dog Blue. I told him to sit down. And then he's like, well, what did you tell me to sit down for? What do you want? What do you want? He knows one trick, give me paw. That's the only trick he knows. Then I'm like, okay, your 5 seconds of fame is done. Move, you in the way. He's so funny. Anyways, I'm sorry. Back to the stool. You can still see some wooden areas, but for the most part, it is fully covered. Alright, and Blue's back. But that concludes my video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. This was really fun to make, even though it was very tedious. Comment below if you decide to make this, and please tag me in your creations. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.